Hello, lovely people. So today I'm reading the Corpus Hermeticum, The Way of Hermes, and this translation is Salaman, Oyan and Wharton. We're on Book 10, Hermes to Tat. I imparted yesterday's discourse to you, O Asclepius, so today it's right to give it to Tat, especially because it's an abridgment of the general teaching addressed to him. God, Father and the Supreme Good have the same nature, or rather power. The name of nature also means growth, as it concerns beings which change and which are movable and immovable. It concerns the divine and the human, both of which God wills into being. We've discussed power elsewhere, and also other divine and human matters, which have to be kept in mind on this subject. The power of God is his will, and God's essence is to will all things to be. What is God, Father and the Supreme Good, but the existence of all things, even those that are not? What else but the very substance of all that is? This is God, this is Father, and this is the Supreme Good, without any further addition. Although the cosmos and the sun are father to them that partake of them, they are not in the same manner the cause of the supreme good in living beings, nor of the life. If they are father, they are wholly controlled by the will of the supreme good, without which nothing can be or become. The father is the cause of his children, both of their generation and their nourishment, having received the desire from the supreme good through the Son. For this good is the creative principle. This cannot be present in anyone but that one alone, which takes nothing but wills all things to be. I do not therefore say, Tat, that the one creates, for over a long period of time the Creator is defective, in that sometimes he creates and sometimes he does not. Sometimes he is defective in quality, and at other times in quantity. Sometimes he creates many things of a particular kind, and sometimes their opposite. But God, Father, and the Supreme Good are there for the existence of all. These things are so for the man who is able to see. God wills this, and so it is. Indeed, it is for this man's sake. One might even say all other things exist for his sake. It's the nature of the supreme good that this good should be known, O Tat. O Father, you have filled us with a good and most beautiful vision, so that my mind's eye is almost afraid of such a sight. It does not, like the rays of the sun, which are fiery, blaze on the eyes and make them close. This is the vision of the supreme good. It shines forth in such a way that the man who has the power can, as far as possible, perceive the flowing light of pure perception. Not only does it come down to us more swiftly, but it's harmless and wholly immortal. Indeed, those who are able to drink in more of this vision often lose awareness of the body in this most beautiful sight, as happened to our ancestors Uranus and Kronos. May that happen to us, O Father. May it indeed, my son, but as yet we are too weak in sight, and not strong enough to open the eyes of the mind, and to behold the beauty of that supreme good, incorruptible and incomprehensible. When you've nothing to say about it, then you will see it, for the experience of it is the silence of God, and the withdrawal of all the senses. He who has perceived it cannot perceive any other. He who has contemplated it cannot contemplate any other. He cannot hear any other. He cannot even move the body. Ceasing from all bodily movement and sensation, he stays still. When it has illumined the whole mind and the whole soul, it flames up again and draws the entire man out of the body and transforms him into his essential being. It's impossible, my son, for the soul, who has beheld the beauty of the supreme good, to become God while in the body. What do you mean by become God, O Father? Every separate soul goes through transformations, my son. What do you mean by separate? Have you not heard in the general teaching that all souls which wander around the whole cosmos, as if separate, are from a single soul, the soul of all? Indeed, there are many transformations of these souls, some more fortunate, others less. Those which are reptiles are changed into aquatic creatures into those of the earth into fowls of the airborne into man. The human souls which gain immortality are transformed into spirits, and thence to the choruses of the gods. There are two choruses of the gods. One is of the gods that wander, and the other of those that do not move. This is the most perfect glory of the soul. When the soul which has entered a human body remains evil, it doesn't taste immortality, nor partake of the supreme good. Being dragged away, it turns back on its journey to the reptiles, and that is the condemnation of the evil soul. The evil of the soul, then, is ignorance. For the soul, knowing nothing of beings of their own nature, or of the supreme good, is blind and shakes with bodily pains. The evil spirit, ignorant of itself, becomes a slave to monstrous and miserable bodies. It carries its body as a burden, and doesn't command, but is commanded. Such is the evil of the soul. On the other hand, the excellence of the soul is understanding. For the man who understands is good, devoted, and already godlike. What sort of man is this, O Father? One who doesn't speak much, or gives heed to many things. He who busies himself in giving and listening to speeches, my son, is beating the air. God, Father, and the supreme good cannot be spoken of or heard. All beings have senses because they cannot live without them. But understanding is very different from sense. For sensation arises from the objects of sense which govern men, while understanding is the fulfillment of knowledge, and knowledge is the gift of God. All knowledge is incorporeal, using the mind as an instrument, just as the mind uses the body. But then come into the body mind and matter. All things must be composed of contrast and opposites. It cannot be otherwise. What then is this material God? The cosmos, beautiful but not good, for it's material and easily affected, and although it's first among things that change, it's second among things that are, and is incomplete. At some time it was created, and yet it always exists. It exists in creation, and it's always being created. It creates quality and quantity, and is subject to movement. Creation is the movement of all matter. The unmoving nous moves matter thus. Since the cosmos is a sphere, that is, a head, and there is nothing material above the head, as there is nothing mental below the feet, where all is matter, so nous is the head, and is itself moved as a sphere, that is in a manner appropriate to a head. Therefore all that is united to the tissue of the head is the soul, and is immortal by nature. Just as even the body is made in the soul, so all that is united to the head has far more soul than body. What is further away from the tissue of the head is mortal, having within it more body than soul. Every living being, like the cosmos, is composed of matter and nous. The cosmos is the first, but man is the second living being after the cosmos. He is the first among creatures that die, but like other living beings he has a soul. Still he is not only not good, but inasmuch as he is mortal, he is corrupt. Now the cosmos is not good inasmuch as it can be moved, but not corrupt as it is immortal, while man is corrupt as he both can be moved and is mortal. The soul of the man is carried in this way: nous in the word in the soul in the body. The breath passing through the veins, arteries, and the blood sets the living being in motion and in a manner supports it. Therefore some people think that the soul is the blood, but they are mistaken about its nature. They don't realize that once the breath has to withdraw into the soul, the blood congeals, the veins and arteries become empty, and then the living being is removed, and this is the death of the body. All things depend upon one first cause, and this depends upon the one alone. The first cause is set in motion, so that it again becomes a cause. Only the one remains still and does not move. So there are these three: firstly God, Father and the Supreme Good, secondly the cosmos, and thirdly man. God contains the cosmos and the cosmos man. The cosmos is the son of God, man the son of the cosmos, and as it were, grandson of God. God doesn't ignore man, he knows him fully, as God also wishes to be known. This is the only salvation for man, knowledge of God. This is the ascent to the highest abode of the gods. Thus the soul becomes wholly good. But it's not good forever, for it becomes corrupt, which happens from necessity. Why do you say that, O Trismegistus? Look at the soul of a child, my son, that has not yet accepted its own separation. Its body is not yet grown and has not fully developed. How beautiful it is to behold in every way, not yet soiled by the experiences of the body, still virtually depending upon the soul of the cosmos. But when the body has grown large and drags the soul down to its grossness, the soul separates itself, forgets, and does not partake of beauty and goodness. Forgetting becomes her corruption. This also happens to those leaving the body. When the soul returns to itself, the breath withdraws into the blood and the soul into the breath. But nous, being freed from covers and being godlike by nature, takes on a body of fire, and raging everywhere leaves the soul to the judgment and justice it deserves. How can you say, O Father, that nous is separated from the soul and the soul from the breath, when you've said that the soul was the covering of nous and the breath is that of the soul? The listener, O son, should be of one mind and soul with the speaker, and his hearing should be quicker than the voice of the speaker. The formation of these covers, my son, takes place in the earthy body. Nous cannot be seated by itself in such a body without covering. The earthy body cannot sustain so great an immortality, nor can such excellence bear contact with a body subject to suffering. Therefore nous has taken the soul as a cover, and the soul, being itself divine, uses breath as fire, and the breath governs living beings. Whenever nous is separated from its earthly body, it immediately puts on its own cloak of fire, which it couldn't have in its earthy body, for earth cannot bear fire. It's all burnt up, even by a tiny spark. Therefore water is spread round the earth as a defence, or a wall, to hold off the flames of fire. Nous, being faster than all divine thought and faster than all elements, has fire as a body. Being the creator of all, Nous uses fire as an instrument of his creative activity. The universal Nous creates everything. The Nous of man only earthly things. Stripped of fire, Nous in man can create nothing divine, being human by reason of where it dwells. The human soul, that is not every human soul but a pious one, is spiritual and divine. When such a soul has freed itself from the body and passed the test of piety, which is to know God and to harm no man, it becomes pure nous. But the impious soul remains in its own substance, restricted by itself, seeking an earthly body. That is to say, a human body into which it may enter. No other body has room for a human soul, and it's not lawful for a human soul to fall into the body of an irrational creature. It's the law of God to protect the human soul from such an outrage. How then is the human soul punished, Father? What greater punishment is there for the human soul than impiety? What fire makes greater flames than impiety? What savage beast mutilates the body as impiety mutilates the soul? Do you not see how many evils the ungodly soul suffers, how it calls for help and shrieks, "I'm on fire, I'm ablaze. I don't know what to say or what to do. Wretch that I am being consumed by the evils which possess me. I cannot see, I cannot hear. Are they not the voices of a soul which is being punished? Or do you believe, as most do, my son, that the soul, at the moment it leaves the body, enters that of a beast? This is a very great error. For the soul is punished in the following way. When nous becomes a divine power, it's obliged to receive a fiery body to serve God, and it enters the impious soul and tortures it with torments belonging to those that err. Afflicted by those, the impious soul turns to murder, outrage and blasphemy, and every kind of violence by which men affront justice. But when nous enters the pious soul, it leads it to the light of knowledge. Such a soul is never insolent through sleep, but blesses all men, setting all things right in word and deed, since it is the image of its Father. Wherefore, my son, when giving thanks to God, you should pray for a mind that is noble. Then the soul can pass to a better state, not to a worse. There is a communion of souls, and those of the gods communicate with those of men, and those of men with creatures. The stronger take care of the weaker, gods of men and men of creatures, and God of all. He is the stronger than all, and all are weaker than him. Thus the cosmos is subject to God, man to the cosmos, and creatures to man. God is above all and around all. The powers of God are like rays, as are the natural powers of the cosmos, and the arts and sciences of men. The powers act through the cosmos and upon man through the rays of its nature. The powers of nature act through the elements, and men through arts and sciences. This is the governance of the all, depending on the nature of the one, governing through the nous of the one. Nothing is more defined or effective, or more able to unite men to the gods, and the gods to men, and this nous. This is the spirit of the supreme good. Blessed is the soul which is wholly filled with it. Wretched is the soul which is devoid of it. How can you say this again, Father? Do you believe, my son, that every soul has nous, the supreme good? For that is what we speak of now, not about the servant of which we have spoken earlier, which was sent down to punish. Without nous, the soul cannot say anything or do anything. Often nous leaves the soul, and at such a time the soul neither sees nor hears, but is like a dumb creature, which is the power of nous. But it leaves such a soul tied to the body and suffocated by it here below. Such a soul, my son, has no nous. Therefore such a one should not be called a man, for man is a divine being, and is not to be counted amongst the other creatures on earth, but amongst those in heaven called gods. Indeed, if we have to speak the truth boldly, the true man is above the gods, or at least fully their equal in power. Not one of the heavenly gods will leave the boundaries of heaven and come down to earth, but man ascends to heaven and measures it, and he knows the high from the low, and he understands all the other things there exactly, and even more amazing, he ascends while not leaving the earth. So great is his range. Thus one may say that man on earth is a mortal god, and that the heavenly God is an immortal man. Therefore everything is controlled by these two, man and the cosmos, but all is one. That concludes Book 10 of the Corpus Hermeticum. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you at Book 11.